After 2 years of existential threat, we cannot ignore that the government, through all hierarchies of life, has faced unprecedented challenges after the arrival of COVID-19. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nadyne Hartanto. I'm a junior high Global Islamic School 2 Serpong representative. And this is my passion project on what the government overlooked during the COVID-19 pandemic. The pandemic outbreak arose to what was known as the strictest social measure the world has ever experienced. Extensive lockdowns and physical distancing became commonplace. As it started trends of working from home and the rise of online shopping. It seemed as though the world stopped in its own track and its passengers faced a devastating crash. As some sat in the comfort of their own homes, a quiet chaos began unraveling as mobility and consumption behaviors changed. What started out as a new necessity became a common norm for people all around the globe. According to the World Health Organization, nearly half of the world's population worked in the informal sector. More specifically, 3.3 billion people were at risk of losing their livelihoods. So, what is defined to be the informal sector? An informal sector is a part of an economy that is neither taxed nor monitored by any form of government. This includes street vending to construction workers, domestic workers, as well as individuals who carry out odd jobs. Not needing to pay taxes, no regulations, and no bureaucracy in this economy. At first, this seems like a dream come true. But do we truly know the reality? What about the facts? What is it truly like to be the neglected child among the formal workers? Let me tell you what the government overlooked during the COVID-19 situation. Much before the pandemic, the government chose to ignore and turn a blind eye to the individuals in the informal sector. The governing law on manpower and its supporting policies do not recognize informal workers, specifying workers as only those who possess formal working arrangements with and receive income from an employer. What are we known for a fact that these workers are absent or in lack of government protection, whether it be healthcare-wise, their public safety, or general labor legislations? For example, under normal circumstances, unregistered street vendors are unable to sell in common public places, with the rise of regulation that maintain our cityscape. As a result, they face the threat of police apprehension or local mobs who take advantage of their vulnerable situation. To add to their suffering, these vendors have competing prices and will likely lose income or do not profit at the end of the day. What may be memorable was the surge of layoffs from big companies and a rapid decline in consumer spending as monthly wages decreased alongside. This drop in demand for goods and services further threatened the already vulnerable informal workers, as many massively relied on in-person connection, such as domestic work, transportation drives, and small businesses with no access or knowledge in the online market. COVID-19 caused havoc for approximately 1.6 billion workers in the informal economy. About 60% experienced a drastic drop in their earnings. It was an uncanny situation, considering that this may have potentially been the government's worst nightmare. Was it ever an easier solution to bypass a difficult economic problem? It was a storm waiting to brew, and everyone knew it. Other than the obvious crisis that is poverty that came hand in hand with the pandemic, the transition from laid-off workers finding another source of income led them to the informal sector. The only natural thing occurred next. The country's GDP decreased and more untaxed, unregulated business popped out all around the country. It's safe to assume that this was not in the forecast of the great minds that ruled this country. How else could a glaring, solvable catastrophe take away the livelihood of so many? It's absolutely possible for me and you listening now to list down the measures that were taken by the government to handle the informal sector. But the answer is obvious. It is not nearly enough. Will it take another pandemic and an internet movement for our generation to start focusing on the neglected? It's an ambitious agenda, but the times we are in so dire that you only need the big ideas and rapid changes to be able to create a more sustainable economy. I say on behalf of an Indonesian citizen, aren't we tired of for being known as the cheap getaway destination? Aren't you tired of facing the consequences of the leaders of our country? Not just for our generation, but also for our nation, we should build a brighter future. I, Nadyne Hartanto, would like to conclude by sincerely thanking you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.